We're studying IGCSE ICT and we're starting Chapter 2, Input and Output Devices, Revision 4. Now, to recap, in the last class, we looked at a few things. We looked at all DDE, or direct entry devices. We looked at some output devices. Output devices including what are, let's say, monitor, and projector. In today's class, we'll start by, we'll continue the revision. Look at a few past paper questions. So the agenda is, firstly, printers. We have actuators, and we also have speaker. Second is past paper questions. Start. So Maya, start reading from here.
Laser printers. Laser printers produce very high quality hard copy.
Just a second. Start, continue.
Laser printers produce very high quality hard copy output. The print rate per page is very quick. A large number of pages are being printed.
All right. Printed, continue. Rania, continue.
They rely on large buffer memories where the data for the whole document is stored before pages can be printed out.
Now look, how does this work? All right. You have this big box here, which is called a laser printer, but how does it work? The main thing is we look at what is the use of this, and we'll also look at how do we use it. First thing first, we have a few types of printers. First thing we're looking at is laser printer. Now, laser printers work like this. You can use this, print many documents in high quality. And let's just say good quality. How this works is you have the printer right here. Okay, it has something called a buffer memory. What is a buffer memory? Well, when you have a computer like this, let's imagine this is your computer. Now this is connected with your printer. Let's say this is your printer, right? Now our job is to look at how does it work. So we look at one thing here. This is your CPU. CPU is the central processing unit, which basically controls all the devices in your computer, right? Now this CPU will actually connect with something else here. Let's say it has another thing inside this, which is called a buffer. So this CPU right here will connect with something else, which is called a buffer. And that buffer is connected to the printer. Now this buffer is basically a word for temporary memory. Let's write that here. Now, why do we need temporary memory? Temporary memory, we need it because if it's very fast. Laser printers are also very fast. If it's very fast, and it must have all the data which it is going to print ready. The buffers are basically temporary data. What happens is your CPU will send the document to the buffer. Let's say I have this document right here. some document on my hard disk, that document will go from CPU to the buffer, and then buffer to the printer. And the printer gives us the document as a page. Right? We get that page right here. Rani, any questions?
What?
Any questions?
No.
On the what is a buffer? Tell me.
A buffer, it takes the document from the CPU and then
All right.
it sends it to
And
the
then,
printer.
yep, exactly. There's another word you need to know that is called temporary memory. So exactly the same thing, but we're going to say that buffer is temporary memory that takes the document from the CPU, sends it to the printer. That's all it is. It's like a temporary storage for the document to stay there while it's being printed. Now, let's see. So let's underline a few key things here. I'll tell you what to write actually in your notebook in a second. Now, how the laser printer works? Uh, we'll look at that in more detail afterwards. But let's first look at the uses and the advantages because that is what is asked in the exam. Now, if you do the past papers, we know that, well, what are the main key things we should focus on first, right? So start from here. Rania, read.
Uses of laser printers. They're used with low noise as required, for example, in an office. If fast, high quality, volume printing is required, then laser printers are the best option.
The best option. Now, look, since we know it's very fast, we know one more thing that it doesn't make noise. It's makes less noise. So in places like offices, uh, in places like homes, especially in offices where everyone is working, like libraries and everything, and offices, you need laser printers because low noise. Now, another thing is, since we saw that already, that laser printers produce high quality output or uh, hard copy output, which are the documents, and they're also very fast. The print rate is very quick. So let's write it on the whiteboard right here. Use is print high quality documents uh, at fast print rate. Let's just say very quickly. Now the actual examples of uses are going to be offices and let's say places that require low noise. Write this in your notebook, start quick. So firstly, you'll write the name of the class, and then you're going to give the use. After that, we'll start with advantages. Advantages. The first advantage is it's very fast. The main advantage is it's very fast. Just a second. Rana, are you writing?
Yes, I'm writing.
Print large, let's say, number of documents. Now, if you have some other kind of printer, such as an inkjet printer or let's say, any other kind of printer, which are used in studios to create to print photographs and everything, they're not very fast. They take some time, especially inkjet printers. On the other hand, laser printers are very fast. They can print 10 pages in less than a minute. Now, third is high quality. So, Maya, have you finished this in school?
No, sir. Yes, we did.
Yes.
Yes.
Input output devices. Which chapter are you doing right now?
We're doing chapter 11 right now, but we skipped, I think, from chapter 2 to 11.
Okay. Oh, okay. Narania, what chapters are you doing?
I'm not sure. We're like doing Excel and stuff.
Excel and stuff. All right. So Excel is going to be, I think, spreadsheets, right?
Yeah.
All right. Finish writing this quickly. Now our goal is to revise everything because we're preparing for the final exams, right? That's where we need to shine. Now tell me when you're done writing. Hurry up. One last thing is disadvantages. Sumaya, read the advantages.
Advantages: fast print rate, print large number of documents, print high quality. 4. Toner lasts longer.
Now, what is toner? Toner, what is this? Rania, can you tell me?
I think like the color,
Yeah.
like
the ink.
Like the ink,
right?
yeah.
Ink. Now, these are quite expensive. I won't get into details of that because you have to finish the chapter quickly. Start. So I finished writing this and tell me when you're done. These are expensive, by the way. Let's say one of this is by like 100 reals. Rana, what is toner? What is toner?
I don't know.
Toner is basically the ink. What is it? The ink.
The ink?
Yes, the ink. Ink in the printer. Does it make sense?
No.
I'll tell you. So ink is, if I show you a page, let's say, I'll show it to you. Just a second. Now look, this thing right here, this is the one which a laser printer has. Okay, this thing right here, this part is called the toner. Okay, now there's something inside this. This toner has something called, when you print something, it's going to show you. Just a second. Look. Just a second. Rania, have you finished writing?
Yeah.
Now look at this. Now this powder right here is your ink, right? That's the ink. Where is the ink stored? It's inside the toner. Rana, do you understand? Now this is what we use in the printer. If I show you the printer, say,
So the powder is what's inside the toner.
yes, and that is what we use to create books and stuff. When you have the book, you have the letters on it, and all of them are printed because of the ink right there. Now we'll continue with another type of. Just a second. This is a laser printer right here. Okay, so this guy goes inside this part right here. Now we look at the next one. Now the whole process of how it works, we'll do that in the questions afterwards. But it's not usually asked much. There's one more thing. Okay, let's see. Start from here. So my year read.
Inkjet printers. Inkjet printers are used to produce good quality hard copies. Unlike laser printers, inkjet printers do not have large buffer memories. Therefore, printing is done a bit at a time. This is why printing is sometimes paused. The whole print job cannot be stored in the buffer, and it has to wait for the computer to send more data.
Alright, what does this mean? When if I look at this printer right here, okay, if I connect this to my computer, we saw that how there is a buffer in the middle. So if I say this is the buffer, and this is the CPU. Now CPU is basically what sends all the commands and instructions and everything. Fine. But the print job is actually stored in the buffer before it goes to the printer. Now, if you have a very small buffer, let's say it doesn't have much space, then I can't send a big document very quickly. So this is the document I'm trying to send and I'm trying to print. So first the CPU will send the document from here to the buffer and from buffer to the printer. Fine. But what if the buffer runs out? It does not have any space. So what happens is that will cause the printer to slow down. And that is why inkjet printers are quite slow. They print one at a time. So what they do is they will print, let's say, this much of the page first, and they will stop. Then the CPU will again send the buffer information. Buffer will send it to the printer. Then it will print the next few lines, and it will stop again. So it does things a bit at a time. So let's just say it has a small buffer, and printing is bit at a time. Now, Rania, any questions? Sumaya, Rana?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, next thing is how are they used again? We will focus on that later. Right? First thing we need is I'll tell you a few things, especially that inkjet printers have a print head, okay, and from that print head, it's going to spray some ink. Now, since it's called inkjet, this jet is actually liquid. But in laser printer, the toner is actually, as we saw, right? We saw right here, the toner is powder. This is powder. That's one big difference. Another difference is that the laser sends all of this ink on the paper, fine. Then it has a few colors. It has black, blue, green, pink, all of these colors. And it's going to mix them together. That will create the images on the document. Fine. Now, what causes the print head to move? If I look at, let's say, a printer, this small thing is my print head. Imagine this is the print head. If I look at over here. Now this thing, this part of it, can actually move. It's just like So what happens is this print head moves from here to here like this, and it also moves backwards. This whole thing is going to move backwards as well. Now if I have my page right here like this, what happens is the print head will go top to down like this, and it will make a line right here like this. Line is done. Then the whole thing will move backwards, and it won't actually move backwards. The paper goes forwards. So the paper will go forward, and then another line is printed right here, and the paper moves forward, and another line is printed. That is how it works. Now, a few key things you need to know are the stepper motor and the belt and the print head. The print head sends the ink. The stepper motor and the belt moves the print head. That's all you need to know. Okay. Paper feed is the thing which contains the paper. So paper feed is basically where you put the paper, this part. That's called the paper feed. Now, I'm not putting a lot of time in this because the questions are not really focused on this. They focus more on the advantages and the disadvantages. Now, Rania, start reading from here.
Uses of inkjet printers. Used when low output volumes are required. High volume jobs are difficult to do because the ink cartilage tend to be used up very quickly. If high quality printing is required for single pages or only a small print job, then these printers are ideal. For example, they're very good at producing photo quality printouts.
Sumaya, continue.
3D inkjet printers are now being used in industry to produce prototypes. See section 2.3.6.
All right. So the first thing is 3D inkjet printers are also something which are used to create prototypes. What are them? What are these prototypes? Prototypes are something in 3D printing. Look at that later. Prototype itself means an object. Some object which is used for experiments and stuff. That this whole part is 3D printing. Now let's focus on what's happening here. Let's write it on the notebook, so that we can revise and memorize later. Now some things are not given in the book, so it's important that we write everything properly. This one was inkjet printer. Now one thing before we move on, please add one more line over here in disadvantage, which is all right, fast print rate only if several or many pages are printed. Write this, tell me when you're done. Third point in the disadvantages. Now for each of these, you need to memorize at least 3 advantages, 3 disadvantages. The questions are usually for 5 marks. We look at past papers as soon as we finish. So Maya, have you written? Rana?
Yes, sir.
I'm still writing.
Rania?
Yeah.
Okay. Rana, finish and take your time.
I finished.
Finished? Let's go to
Yes.
examples. Write the working, let's just say the procedure of working. First step is print head has ink nozzle that sprays ink on page. 2. Stepper motor and belt move page a bit at a time. 3. paper feed automatically feeds paper. Next thing is the advantages of these. We looked at a few things such as they do make high quality, they're very high quality. But the problem is they're not fast. So they're only good if you want to get very high quality images, but not a lot of images at the same time, not a lot of printing at the same time. So let's say advantage is another thing. Let's before advantage we try to use is photographs. Homes. That's it. Instead of homes, write this. Where low volume printing is needed. These are also lightweight. Compared to your laser printer, the inkjet is much lighter. I'll show it to you. Let's see. If you look at this image right here, what you'll realize is the person on the left is your inkjet printer. Not this one, this is the laser one. That's laser, and this is the inkjet. Now, images, you need to recognize them properly in your past paper questions, because they'll also ask you to name and label the hardware. So, Maya, have you finished writing? No pollution. Right. Now, what we realize is, even though this guy is cheaper, the inkjet is cheaper than the laserjet, but if you use it in the long run in 5 years, it's going to cost you much more in the ink. It's going to cost you much more to maintain the inkjet printer. Even if the initial cost is less, in the long run, it is more expensive. However, the laserjet costs, it's expensive in the beginning, but afterwards, it's actually much cheaper than in inkjet, because the toners last a long while, and they also need less maintenance. Rana-Riti advantages.
Advantage: high quality, cheaper than leather blender, lightweight, light,
Weight, lightweight,
lightweight. The volume of
no pollution,
pollution
ozone.
of zone or chemicals.
Yeah. So what we realize here is they don't make pollution like the toner of the laser jet. It was producing ozone and the other chemicals, right? Organic compounds and anything. Uh, those are not really good for the environment. So let's just say this is better for environment or no pollution. The last one we have is, or the second last we have is called dot matrix. Rani and Riti disadvantages.
Slow output, small buffer capacity, so print during pauses. Ink cartridge finishes quickly, expensive in long run.
Okay. Now, Sumaya, if I ask you, if let's say you're buying an ink a printer, okay, and you want to print a lot of documents very fast, what would you print? What would you buy? Inkjet or laserjet? The question is, you want to print. I need the answer from Rana and Rania in the chat. Sumaya, say it out to me. So you need fast
Read the
printing.
question again, please.
The question is, you need fast printing. Will you buy laserjet or inkjet?
I think I'll buy LaserJet.
Laserjet, because we realize here is it has slow output. Or in place of slow output, please write one more thing. Let's just say slow print rate. Change this, tell me when you're done.
Okay.
So if you need fast printing, laserjet is not the option to go.
Fast printing.
There
Yeah.
are,
Inkjet.
right?
Inkjet. Yeah.
Now, Rania, I'll ask you a thing. What do you think? What do you think is more cheaper in the long run, inkjet or laserjet?
Laser jet.
Why? Give me two reasons.
Because like the toner was the toner will stay longer on the paper, and high quality as well.
High quality, okay. Well, that's not something related to cost. The cost was that even though it's cheaper in the beginning than a laserjet, but in the long run, the cartridges finish quickly, and the cartridges are expensive. I'll just add one more word here: finish quickly and are expensive. So that is why it is more expensive in the long run. Add this word as well. Please check if you've written everything correctly. Finish writing quickly. So Maya, read the advantages.
Advantages: 1. Can be used in dusty environments. 2. Very cheap to maintain. 3. Easy to use.
What that means basically is these are the things that you have in shops like Handasa. If you have one there, if you go to any stationery shop, you'll find these printers. Now they are very cheap to run. Okay, they don't take much electricity and everything, so they're cheap to run and maintain. You can, if you put them on the road outside, they'll get a lot of dust on them, but they will keep working. If you put laser jet in, or inkjet, especially inkjet, in a dusty environment, it will stop in one day. Right? It will become carbon. But your job is to decide which is better for which environment, right? So dot matrix is better for environments which are dusty, where noise is not really a problem. So they're very noisy as well. Now that for that, Rania, read the disadvantages.
Very noisy, cost more than inkjet, very slow, poor printing quality.
So okay, Rania, can you tell me what is the advantage of this whole thing? Why would I buy this, even though it's noisy and slow and poor print quality? Why would you think someone will get a dot matrix printer?
Um, it's easier to use,
Okay,
and you don't have to like buy a new printer because it can live in dusty conditions.
perfect. So that's anything else, Sumaya?
Uh, you can use them where print quality is not important.
Okay, Rana, uh, give me one disadvantage of dot matrix printers.
For what?
The uh, one disadvantage for dot matrix printers. Others keep writing. Now, Rana, I want you to read from here. Start.
You can hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. What I want to read?
Yes, from here.
Oh,
Disadvantages.
disadvantage. One is very noisily. Two, costs more than inking. Three, very slow. Four, poor blend quickly.
Quality. That means that it's,
Quality.
yeah, and it's very noisy. One thing. So that's one big problem. Another thing is that it's expensive than inkjet and it's very slow. So if you want to print something of high quality, it's not going to be the one. So it's slow. What is it, Rana?
It's very slow.
Okay, and it's also noisy. What is it?
It's very noisy and costs more than in England
Inkjet, yeah.
and board plane
Quality.
requires
Quality.
the quality. Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. Good job. Good job. Now keep writing.
Okay.
Tell me when you're done. Very high
Okay.
quality outputs. Okay. Two. Rania, read the advantage.
A very highly quality output, can print large documents, can print using many materials like plastic, steel, wood, and wood.
All right. Sumaya, read the disadvantage.
Very slow print rate, expensive. Uh, Disadvantage 1. Very slow print rate. 2. Expensive. 3. Very large. Takes a lot of space.
So it takes a lot of space. It's very large, by the way, right? That's one big problem. What we realize on because of that is, if you want to print something, let's say, large documents, okay, which are like posters, you can make posters and all of that. That's where you use this. You want to add another use, let's say, making posters and things like that, posters, advertisement, billboards, and everything. Those kind of things are printed with this. This is expensive. To expensive, let's say, to maintain, expensive to buy and maintain. That's it. Now 3D printer. Use print physical or print 3D objects. Use of this. So Maya, have you finished writing?
Yes, sir.
All right. They're used in CAD and the 3D modeling. What is CAD? CAD is basically computer-aided design, which means CAD. CAD is like the software in which you make 3D models, designs, modeling, and everything. If you've seen it, like when you make a 3D drawing of a cartoon or something, or perhaps a building or some furniture, and then what you can do is you can make a model of that and you can print it. Now, though that whole thing is called 3D printing, and that's possible because of a 3D printer. Look at the advantages of these guys quickly. Advantages are guys, can you hear me? Rania, Sumaya.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Uh, the internet is a bit off right now. If you can't hear me properly, please let me know. Right? I'll do something about it. Now, less expensive, time consuming, so it's fast. Well, okay. No, it's not fast really, but it's less expensive than other options, right? Like making a mold and everything. It's less expensive than the other options of making 3D objects. Okay. We can say these powders used can be recycled, or let's say can be reused. Or let's just say resin can be reused. Resin is basically what the ink in this 3D printer. Lastly, another advantage of this is gives better understanding. Let's just say better idea of products appearance. Last thing is this disadvantage. Let's finish that. Disadvantage. Now it's very expensive to buy. To slow print rate. And you may think this is contradictory to the first point in advantages. I'm saying it's less expensive, time consuming. Now I'm saying it's slow and expensive. Well, it's less expensive compared to the other options. But in itself, it is quite expensive. Because to buy a 3D printer, you need a lot of money, and it is quite slow. Much compared to the other printers like inkjet, laserjet, it's much slower than them. Any questions in this?
No.
All right, all right. Let's see. Could uh, counterfeiting. Do you know what counterfeiting means?
No.
It's like, okay, look, if I have a 3D printer, let's look at a 3D printer on the book. This right here is the 3D printer. Can you see this? So it has this ink on it, and it's going downwards, and you're making the card. It doesn't look like this in reality, actually, but that's what a 3D printer looks like. Let's say generally, a general image of a 3D printer. Fine. Now there's ink coming from the top, and you have uh, the thing being made in the bottom. Now, next thing we need to look at is, since this is the thing being made, what is stopping people from making money? Right? You can also print money like this. You can also print coins or stuff like that, right? So that is basically called fraud. People can print things which they're not allowed to make, such as they can print stamps, they can make quite keys and everything. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that's basically counterfeiting / fraud. Now, last thing would be leads to job loss of job. Finish writing, tell me when you're done.
Okay.
After that, continue writing speakers. Now, this is just a revision because it's not one of the hardest chapters in the book, right? There's a lot more in practicals, a lot more in ICT applications and everything. We look at that after this. Uses are mobile phones and computers. Used in presentations, or let's just say playing audio files. That's enough. So Maya, have you finished writing about the 3D printer?
Yes, sir.
All right, continue. Now sound, basically, advantage of a speaker is sound is amplified and much louder. Second thing is helps visually impaired people. Because if you can't see things, it's much more helpful if you can hear things, especially for people who are blind and everything, right? They're differently able. Now, the third option or third advantage of this is everyone can listen to presentation. Now, if you have a very small speaker or let's say an image on the screen, not everyone can see it properly in a presentation. But if you play an audio which is loud enough, you can easily listen to it. That's done for advantages. Lastly, need at least 3 for all of them, 3 to 4 for all of them. So 4 is enough, more than enough. Rania, what are you writing right now?
The disadvantages of speakers.
All right, good. Now this is the last thing we're doing. So chapter's done, right? So finish writing. Now I want you to revise this after class as well. Read these notes again, revise the book. So hopefully you can have a better understanding and you can memorize all of these, because it's not just important to know them, it's much more important to memorize them and know them by heart. Lastly, use of an actuator. What are actuators? We'll revise this again in the next class. I want to finish this so we can do questions in the next class. Used to. That's an actuator. So Maya, read what is an actuator.
The users
Uses, yes. Actuators use.
actuators. 1. Used to control motors, pumps, etc. 2. To allow computers to control physical objects.
All right. Rana, read the advantages.
Which one? Advantage?
Advantage, yes.
Advantage 1, allow remote operation. 2,
Cheap, right? It's very cheap.
cheap. Yeah, cheap.
Now disadvantages. Rania, read quickly. They could go wrong. They could they could get faulty. Okay. Second is need, because let's say they need a analog digital converter to run because they are analog. Rania, disadvantages, quick.
Disadvantages, they can get faulty. They need an analog digital converter to run because they are they're
Just a second.
the-
Yeah. Because actuators are analog. Now write this in your notebook. So basically, Rania, one more time, read it quick. Second point.
disadvantages. Okay. Computers need an analog to digital converters to control
Actuators.
actuators because actuators are analog.
Analog. So if anything is analog and your computer is obviously digital, the computer needs an analog to digital converter to be able to control the actuators. Fine. Now, please finish writing quickly. Guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Rani, have you finished
Yes.
writing?
Yeah.
Sumaya, what are you writing right now?
The second part of disadvantages.
Okay, Rana,
I finished now.
finish now. All right. Now, finish writing first. Now, this concludes chapter 2. In the next class, we're going to look at partial questions, partial formats, and let's say difficult questions. Our job is to focus on the difficult questions because if they come in your exam, then you're ready. You may think ICT is much easier than the other subjects is memorized and everything is fine. The advantage, disadvantage. But in reality, you need to know the partial formats, what kind of questions are asked. Usually questions are 8 marks long. So that takes a lot of practice to be able to solve them, right? And that's what we'll be doing in the next class. So for now, finish writing. I hope you learned something and you understood what we did. I hope to see you in the next class. Take care. Goodbye.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
You're welcome.